Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassey, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. We got a fun guy here today. It's one of the great things in my life is I get to be around smart people, and this is one of the smartest people I know, our Deputy Director of Administration of Wycomico County, Weston Young. Welcome, Weston.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
So you're the man in the office there. You're like sort of the power behind the curtain. You sort of bring reason to that office, I think, and they give you all the nasty assignments to figure out.
There's a lot to learn. I've had the public works blinders on for some time. With the engineering background, I'm a professional engineer. A lot of time in public works. I ran a stormwater utility for the city of Hampton, and it's when you start getting into corrections and what's going on with the opioid epidemic, there's a lot of I've been doing a lot of reading on the side to try to catch up and learn as much as I can.
Well, you were the county engineer, and they must have seen something in you because they made you the Deputy Director of Administration, which sort of puts you in line to maybe be the county administrator one day if you want to do that. But I guess you're on a learning curve now.
Yeah, that's the potential. Wayne Strasburg is there now and doing fine.
Very solid, very solid.
Yeah, he has a wealth of life experience that, being, half his age, it's impossible for me to have that, but I'm learning what I can, and I think my time with Public Works and the administration side of the house is where I've been doing very well in terms of working with the employees, trying to keep costs down. Solid waste was losing about $500,000 a year in operational budget, and we've turned that around.
Yeah, our dump is profitable now.
That's one way of looking at it. It was team effort, but we got operational down, and we found ways of getting revenue up. One thing we're really excited about is what we've done with our recycling program. We've really increased revenues there through a variety of changes. And our recycling rate's up, even though we've lost a few recycling centers along the way.
But for a rural area to have our percentage so high is excellent.
Yeah, we're in I want to say like around 45% each year, and that's tied to how much waste comes in. So this past year, or I'll say 2016 and 2017, we've had a 20% increase in the amount of trash coming, which that's a good economic sign.
Right.
But our recycling has stayed up at 45%. So that means, and that's, really the props go to the businesses and citizens that go to, whether they recycle privately through one of the private companies out there that picks up the cardboard, or through our citizens that are helping sort.
Right.
The cities that offer recycling programs, that helps as well. They benefit because they're not paying $60 a ton to take trash. So, there is a financial benefit to the municipalities to recycle. But it's our citizens and businesses are the main proponent behind it. My job and the solid waste division of Public Works was to make it profitable.
Right.
And so that we're not asking for handouts or, saying, we're losing money each year.
Right.
So, pretty happy with that, and hoping to take what I've learned there and go county-wide, see where we can, where we can run lean, where we can be more efficient. That's the, I guess, engineer in me is trying to find the efficient path, but again, it's I recognize that there's a lot of background I need to learn first. So a lot of reading, a lot of talking to people, finding the history behind why things are done a certain way, and and just see the changes, because there's a lot of, the other thing I've learned is coming from the state level, there's a lot of unfunded mandates and formulas that control how much money goes towards things. So it's hard to make a change or a cut when the state says, well, no, you have to throw X amount of dollars towards this, regardless if it's running efficiently or not. So that's something I'm still coming to terms with. But
You've been the point man on a lot of big scale projects here lately, and one for this last year was the courthouse. You were very involved in the renovation of the courthouse. How'd that go?
it went well. With any old building, you're going to find,
Right.
every door you open, you're going to find a fire to put out. But all things considered, it went well. The private sector with Greater Salisbury and Brian Lecomte with the uplighting, like that was a great, I'll say, final touch
Right.
to the work we put in. But yeah, we knew there were issues. The roof was replaced because there were severe flooding issues, and that's sort of the county executive and my efforts as well have been on trying to go to all the county-owned buildings, and a lot of them are in disrepair, and look at how do we maintain what we have.
Right.
And with the courthouse, the historic courthouse, we noticed, all right, we have flooding. I mean, there's still issues in that building, but let's cap the flooding. Like let's stop. Let's fix the roof, and then let's redo the historic clock tower. Which, as we were in the process of that. And again, a lot of this fund started with Executive Pilot as well.
Right.
But county-wide, we're looking at all the buildings, and we're developing a facility master plan. But as the process was going, we had a lightning strike that then put the clock tower in a precarious situation. So
Even tilted it a little bit.
yeah, it had a slight spin to
Yeah.
it, a little torque, and that's concerning when you see how many people walk down there.
Right.
So we blocked that off for a while, and that definitely expedited the work there. But I think it looks great, and I'm excited to see. They're not going to be as visible, but the next changes. If you talk to the court staff and people who go to court there, hopefully they're going to be more comfortable as time goes on as we make upgrades to the old building. But with any old building, when you start getting into it, you realize there's other issues you didn't account for, and even just like the type of brick used. At some point, it was sealed, and it's like, well, that type of brick was meant to breathe.
Right.
So how do you undo what was done? And again, people are using the best, best building practices at the time. But that's along the way you get lead paint and asbestos and things that we thought were good,
Right.
turned out to be bad, and then
Well, it's built in 1848. It's a long time.
it's
150
a long time.
years.
It's a long time, but it looks great, and everybody involved did a great job. So we're happy with that.
Now, we had a great picture of you on the front page of our paper because of the scaffolding. You actually got up there in the tower at where the clock is. That's like I've looked back, that's like a twice in a lifetime thing that ever happens, that people get up there like that.
Now, I'll say what's more exciting than that was I went up after the lightning strike in a windstorm and felt how much the
How much
the
it
tower
actually
was
swings,
moving, and
yeah.
that's you have the existential worry there when you feel that shaking and realize that it's not in the best shape. So now there's a reinforced structure on the inside that you don't see.
Right.
So it's less likely we're going to have any sort of issue like that going into the future.
The other thing you've been the point man on is our dam situation. With all of our rain, we lost a dam out there at Barron Creek.
Yeah, that was, we've had a lot of rain. I want to say fall of 16 is when we really started noticing. Going from memory, it was June of 2016 that Nanticoke Road washed out from
Right.
heavy rain. That's a dam, but it's a state-owned dam. July of 2016 was Barron Creek. That was a privately. It was weird. There was some
quasi
county involvement
thing, yeah.
because you recognize that the private owner may or may not have the ability to open it. So the county needed the ability to go in, and there was some give or take there. But it was a private dam, and that had washed out a few times, but not to the extent that we had in July of 2016. September of 2016, the rainfalls just kept coming. Snow Hill Road washed out. That's another state road.
Right.
That was closed for a while for them to fix that. I want to say that may have been where the Pocomoke River crossed.
Yes.
So when you're dealing with
Down
a
by the fire
river,
tower.
yeah,
Yeah.
when you're dealing with a river, it's not easy to bypass that or work with that. And then there's the environmental permits involved with all of these that you need to be considerate of as well. More recently, August of 2017, we had some major rain that hit both public and private. Within Wicomico County, Pratt Road and Kaywood subdivision were hit. But the bypass, the bypass and the bigger roads, as you go from like county rural road to interstate, there's different design levels. Well, the bypass is built to a higher standard, and it was shut down
Right.
from that August rainfall. So
Right.
what we found is, for the northeast U.S., we are getting significantly more rain, more intense rain. So while California is getting a drought and then you get associated wildfire conditions, we are getting more intense rain, and that's where we have the difficulties. How do we address that? Can we address that? And I'd be glad to get into the weeds with that.
Well, I mean, when it rains 5 inches an hour or whatever, that's just, you can't. How do you build anything to accommodate that?
Yeah, a good analogy is, all right, our roads are sized for a certain amount of traffic, and then say, all right, once a year, or in the case of the end of 2016, like 3 times a year, 4 times a year, you have interstate level traffic trying to get through your roads. Well, do you then say, all right, well, we're going to knock down houses and buildings and make all our roads, wide enough to handle the occasional interstate traffic?
Right.
Or how do we adapt to it? And what's difficult with flooding in this area, if you're along the coast, you have tidal interactions. So when it's a high tide and you have a heavy rain, sometimes the water can't go anywhere. Another issue is high groundwater. So having the groundwater really high, which is just about everywhere
Right.
in Wicomico and our neighboring counties, if you put a bigger pipe in, unless you build up the road, and I'll touch on that, but typically you go deeper. Well, if there's high groundwater, you're going to have water just sitting in that pipe. And if it's not moving, you then have mosquito issues, and it doesn't help with capacity. So you're not pushing more water through if it starts off 3/4 full. If you build up, which we always look at when we pave a road, sometimes we say, all right, we're going to make this road a 1/2 inch higher or an inch higher, and that'll help keep it from flooding. Well, you need to be considerate of, all right, how do the houses and properties along that road drain? If they typically drain to the road and now the road's higher, the road can act as like a mini dam, and then water starts backing up onto people's property. So you're limited there. Sometimes you need more right-of-way, and that's not an option to
Right.
put in more infrastructure. Ditches need to get wider sometimes, and some people aren't willing to give up their land, and it's their land. So there's constraints dealing with these heavy rains, but it's something that our Public Works division is working on, and we're relying heavily on the consultant community as well to assist us, because it's countywide. It's not just one area of the county. We have our hot spots,
Right.
and we monitor those. Sometimes a pipe could be undersized, and then we plan to make it bigger if we can, or put in additional pipe. In some cases, the flooding was caused due to a blockage. So an effort from our roads division of Public Works is looking at our inlet. We don't have as many inlets as, say, like the city does or the state does, but we have a lot of pipes and ditches, and we want to make sure that we don't have anything blocking those pipes.
Well, I was fascinated. Over by Tony Tank, there was the flood, and the residents over there were convinced that the pipe was backed up, that there was no one had maintained this pipe. It was in bad shape. And you guys put a camera in there and actually played it at the county council meeting. I was captivated by watching this camera go down the pipe, and the pipe was just fine.
Yeah. So
it was completely clean.
The city of Salisbury has graciously loaned us the camera they have.
Yeah.
The county doesn't own one yet. We may look at getting one because it is beneficial for the longer stretches. They can also use it for their sewer pipes to see if there's a leak or anything like that. But yeah, we can go through and we can look, because sometimes when you have anything underground, you don't know what has happened. You don't know if there's, because the pipes are connected, if there's a breach in that connection.
Right.
water can get through, and then it starts cutting an issue. That's how you get sinkholes a lot of the time. Tree roots can get in, like they're looking for to tap into that water as well. So that can be an issue, and with it underground, we don't always know. It can be difficult to try to address some of the, again, your example, 5 inches over an hour, 6 inches over an hour, and we've had it over 30 minutes.
Right.
Another case was the August rainfall. The Monday before, so that the heavy rains fell on Saturday morning, Friday night, Saturday morning, but the Monday before was when we had the tornado that hit Salisbury. There was rain that came along with that. Well, when the ground is saturated, a lot of times, and that's where it's beneficial to keep the trees and to have the rain gardens and the plants, because they'll pull up a surprising amount of water. Unless you're dealing with a swamp. A lot of our forest, when you have a heavy rain, you don't see the water leave the site. The trees absorb it all.
Good point, right.
So as we develop things, we try to do it, and that's where the state stormwater guidelines come along, is we try to build the businesses, build the homes in a way that we're not flooding our neighbors. And now there's a whole water quality element as well. How do we keep the bay clean from sediments and nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus? So it's not having the trees, and when people cut down all the trees on the property, the water will hit the ground and it'll get absorbed. The grass will pull some of it, but if you had a rain like we did that came with a tornado, and then 5 days later have a torrential downpour, you can't expect the ground to absorb that. So then you're going to get more runoff, and that contributed to the August flooding of last year considerably.
You had a great paradigm response line during that time when people would call me and they were like, there's water in my yard and the county's not doing anything. And you actually told me the response line is, well, the county lost Nanticoke Road. That's how significant this rainfall was, and he lost it twice.
It helps putting it in perspective, because it's not to come across as unempathetic,
right?
Because we do what we can.
This is an unusual situation.
But again, going back to the roadway analogy, we had unanticipated interstate traffic coming through the west side of the county, and our roads are not designed to handle that, so everything's backed up. We had issues. It's very personal when it affects you.
Yeah.
And when you have no other option and your basement floods, or we had every now and then you have a case where somebody loses a car because the water backed up high enough that it took out their engine. And we're empathetic to that, and we can do what we can, but when it's very widespread, it wasn't an issue just with you. When we lose dams, when we lose major roads, we are getting an amount of rain that, you could have somebody from dam safety here, and they're going to tell you, because I dealt with them for a while with both when I was with the city of Salisbury and now with the county. Our county dams are built to well beyond the 500-year statistical storm.
Right.
They're not meant to fail, because in some cases you have loss of life. And we have an upcoming project we were working on. It took a while. It took a bit longer to get the easements needed, but Morris Mill Dam,
right.
We're upgrading that. That doesn't have any controls to it, so we can't lower that pond ahead of a hurricane.
There was some thought there of letting that dam go.
Yeah, that, and again,
but the residents there would have gone crazy.
Yeah, that gets tricky. You kind of have dam safety wants to protect the dams, and then you'll have other state environmental groups that want fish passage.
Right.
But if there's other blockages down below if the fish can't get up from there. And then it's about, we've had this dam for a while. It's part of the road. Let's not change it. The people that live along there have waterfront property.
Right.
If all of a sudden you tell them, well, now you're going to have nothing, that's a bit harder to swallow. In the case of Barron Creek, the private dam, was pretty much one house. And we bought that as part of the dam property to get what we needed. We're hoping to fix that this year. We're still designing it. It's not going to be a dam like it used to be because we'd have to build it to
Right.
current dam safety standards.
But you'll replace the road.
Yes, we're going to replace the road, and we want to do it in a way that if we get those heavy rains, it has pipes that can handle that. Probably it'll be a series of very large culverts, one down low enough that fish passage, so we satisfy those people, and that's a net beneficial thing there. But then we also want to have it that the original pond bottom, as heavier rains come and hit those pipes, they'll start backing up. And we can then, going back to talking about the trees absorbing water, they're also absorbing nutrients, they're absorbing chemicals in some cases. We want to plant that pond bottom such that, and design the culvert such that the water will back up on the larger storms and have these plants absorb that. So we can start, we can claim, because that ultimately drains to the Nanticoke River, and we'd like to say all that drainage area, at least for Barron Creek, it was 10,800 plus acres that drained to that location. So when you have, and half of it in Delaware. So when you have a heavy rain,
Right.
all of that, you have to imagine 10,000 acres of rainfall coming to that location.
That watershed, yeah.
So if we can kind of delay that with the pond bottom and absorb some of that, clean some of that, it should make the Nanticoke River cleaner. And that is something that we're hoping to, with their creek watchers and the Nanticoke Watershed Alliance, like show that, look, this is a net positive, and we've made the best out of losing that particular road and dam, and restore access, because that's really with that one. If there's an accident on 50, it's a good detour route, and,
Right.
and a lot of people used it. We're hoping to make it a bit safer. If you ever drove it, it was narrow, and we couldn't use traditional guardrail
Right.
along there. It was sort of what I've seen in South America, where it's just a thin cable, and but because we're the county and we have several municipalities within it, and we have state roads, sometimes you'll find, okay, the state road is backing up due to a county or a private ditch.
Right.
And in that case, hopefully the state is contacting the county. In some cases, the county ditch is backing up to a state. So we talk, we do maintain communications with our municipalities and the state, and we do our best to do that. I think one of the issues that we all encounter is that there are some private ditches that have overgrown, and you'll have old growth trees growing in these ditches. They're doing good for the smaller rains, but you lose capacity for the heavy rains, and it may cause other ditches. We have some issues off of a line road up in Delmar, where it is the state of Delaware
Right.
that is causing the blockage. So it's hard to convince the state of Delaware that a Wicomico County citizen needs them to do something, because they're like, well, they're not our taxpayers. They're willing to help, but it's not necessarily a priority as one of their taxpayers. So it's the interconnectedness can be another blocker for us resolving flooding issues. But it goes back to one of the big things we're trying to do now, Public Works is trying to do, of course I'm doing it here, is educating citizens. In some cases we need a more elaborate engineering study to determine this is the cause of the flooding, or over a 24-hour period your stormwater network can handle 6 inches of rain. If you get 7 inches of rain, you're going to see backup, or we can figure out, all right, what is the rainfall event that starts impacting you. But to do that countywide would be really expensive. But we're focusing on the hotspot areas. There's some areas identified by the county council we're trying to address, and then educate the citizens. Okay, this is something we can fix, or something that we can only fix part of it, or we may not be able to fix it at all if it's high groundwater and we had too much rain over too little at a time, which goes back to the intensity. When you have these extreme rain events, the interstate traffic come through.
Right.
In some cases, we're not going to make Barron Creek Road handle interstate traffic, no matter what we do.
Right.
So we're looking to sort of triage, fix what we can, study You will see in our proposed budget that Public Works will have more money for studies to help try to resolve these issues because, again, we're empathetic. It helps putting it in perspective to say, look, we lost a dam. It wasn't just you. We lost a dam, or the bypass was shut down because they had a major washout. But we do intend to study these areas. So it's not that we're not considerate. We plan to. It's just it takes a lot longer. And, also we don't want to throw a lot of money on what was a freak storm and isn't an issue otherwise. So a lot of these places that have flood, we go out there every rainfall. We have somebody look at these, drive past that and say, all right, is there an issue for a 2-inch rain? No, it's fine. 3-inch rain? No, it's fine. 4-inch rain? No, it's fine. It was a freak rainfall. And then it's like, do we want to spend $100,000 and upgrade pipes that do absolutely nothing? And in some cases, no matter what you do, if you have that rainfall, or you could upgrade it to handle the rain they had, and then we have even bigger rain. Luckily, as I mentioned, the west coast of the U.S. is having droughts, and we seem to have more intense rain. We're not quite like monsoon season where we have relentless rain, so it hasn't gotten that bad yet. But again, the Public Works budget will include more consultant money to look into that. And once we start identifying projects, then it'll go into our 5-year capital plan. So government doesn't move as fast as we would like, but I think we have ideas in mind. We'd like to educate and we'd like to engineer where we can. And then there's a minor element which we tend to lean away from is the enforcement angle. That's where we need to start looking at, is there grant money available? Most of the money out there from the state and federal level is for cleaning the bay, and some for, I'll say, coastal resiliency, dealing with the effects of sea level rise or recurring flooding. I will say I saw a grant recently that acknowledged the higher intensity rainfalls and is willing to study that.
Good.
So that's actually, and it was tucked in a coastal resiliency grant. So when these and there's a lot of money out there, and I'll tell you, before Public Works kind of took the torch of the bay cleanup effort, the county's planning and zoning was leading the effort. And, the county council gives us in the budget $200,000 a year to deal with the bay cleanup effort. And for every dollar we've gotten, we have gotten probably $1.50 to $2 in grant funding matching it. And in a lot of cases, the grant will all fully cover what we're trying to do. So we made that money go really far in terms. So the taxpayers, if they really dug into it, they would see that we've used money very efficiently. Of course, if you're getting it at the federal and state level, that's also your tax dollars. But so I recognize that. But we've been trying to go for the projects that do the biggest bang for the buck, reduce the most amount of nutrients and sediment. But a lot of it's good housekeeping too. So if we can educate homeowners, this is proper, for your yard or businesses, keep the landscape crews from doing X or Y. It'll help us out as a community as a whole, and then the county and say like the city of Salisbury and the municipalities don't have to do as many projects to try to adapt to the changing development.
I'm out of time, but I have to ask. You're a local guy.
Yeah.
From Pocomoke City?
Pocomoke City originally. I've lived in Salisbury most of my life. Yeah.
Smart guy. You could live anywhere in the world. Why do you live here?
I want to say, the county executive has been good to me. He's seen, potential, and, I don't intend to let him down. I've always, the reason I'm in the public sector, because I could do private sector designs, I still have that know-how, I want to see my taxpayer dollars get spent efficiently and correctly, and, I want to be involved with that at this level right now. So, I appreciate the opportunity Bob Culver and Wayne Strasburg have put into me, and I think hopefully we'll continue to do great things with the county.
He's Weston Young. He's part of the brains that make our county go, and I'd love to be around him. He's the smartest guy. He's just brilliant. So thanks for being here today.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and yeah, thank you for the time.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper, another edition of One-on-One right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and One-on-One. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.